Thank you for taking time this week and joining us here on Retiring Well. We have a great show lined up for you this week here. First, John and I are going to be diving into traditions, retirement, and football. All of these things tying together, and how does retirement sometimes feel like a football game? You know, there's so many traditions out there this time of year, and talking about all this different stuff and correlating it all together. Then Joe is going to be diving into an interesting, complex topic and making sense of it just so you can understand it. Nick is then going to be talking about living well in retirement. We talk about retiring well all the time here on the show, obviously, but what exactly is that, and how can you plan to do that? And Virgil is wrapping up the show this week and talking about the most important areas of your retirement plan. Are you working on them, or do they need a little bit of help, and so you can plan to retire well? All of this and so much more this week, right here, right now on Retiring Well.
Retiring Well, brought to you by Centennial Wealth Advisory, financial advisors specializing in retirement planning and serving all of Northern Michigan. Retiring Well, helping you plan for a successful and comfortable retirement. Retiring Well, plan to retire well.
All right, let's talk a little bit about traditions, football, and then maybe a little bit about retirement planning as well. Does that sound all right? So as I think through traditions and sort of Thanksgiving week and everything, my grandma lived in Ann Arbor. My dad grew up there. Mom and Dad's first date was a Michigan-Ohio State football game, go blue. And so when I go back to my youth and those traditions, it was there in Ann Arbor, cheering on the Wolverines and everything, and just what a joyful time and memory that was for me and my family. And now having the opportunity to take my kids and go to the big house with 10,000 other fans cheering on the Wolverines, and just the excitement that brings.
You know, as we are in the fall season here and stuff like that, you know, football is a part of a lot of people's lives, whether their kids are playing it at various youth levels, they're watching the collegiate games with big games coming on here as the season goes on, or at the professional level where whatever your favorite team may be, of important games that are always happening like that. And I think with football, you know, there's so much preparation when it goes into that. I coached football for many years at the youth level, and, you know, proper preparation makes the game so much smoother. And you think of, you know, maybe you're going to tune in this Thanksgiving and watch the Lions play their game, and you think about all that goes in to make that game happen. And, you know, when we think about that and we think of all that preparation and relating that back to your retirement, it's very similar. You know, teams that play football don't just show up and decide to play a football game. There's so much preparation that goes into game planning, to walking through and scrimmaging, if you will, or working through that stuff in advance. So when that game actually happens, they know within some reality. Now, there's going to be variations but they can have a predictable plan of going on that. And retirement's very similar.
Yeah, it's so true. And as I think back, for those of you that don't know, Art and I have been friends since kindergarten. So we would grow up watching the Lions together and everything. And those were the days of Barry Sanders, where it seemed like whether, you know, it was all on Barry's hands to try and win the game for the Lions. And you think of that with your investments. So often we hear from people where it's like, well, but this one stock, this one company, this is it for me. I'm solely dependent on what this investment does. And again, it comes back to that concept of diversification and spreading out your investments so that you don't necessarily hit some of those highs, or for us growing up in the 90s, a lot more lows, I would say, as Lions fans, but also with the investment world where you want to structure that properly to make sure that you've got key diversification within your investments.
You know, the game of football has changed so much over the years. You know, and John talks about the years of Barry and watching the game and stuff like that, and now watching that, the use of all this technology that's come out and the use of statistics and odds and all this sort of stuff to they believe better their chances of winning the game and having the most success as possible. Well, wouldn't we use those same tactics in your retirement planning, there's so much available to us as financial planners that we can walk through those situations and map things out more than what people used to be able to do 20, 30, 40 years ago when it comes to that. And again, doing this in advance and going through this process so we can help you plan to retire well, so you can help win that game, right? The whole point, you know, when we're watching football games, whether the loud as you cheer or not from your couch, the outcome is out of your hands, right? When we get mad and the game doesn't go our way, it's out of your control. But retirement is in your control. Your retirement can be in your control, but you're the one that has to take the initiative to make that happen.
Yeah. As you were talking, Art, it took me back to, one of those memories of us playing football together. Art was the center, I was the quarterback through those middle school years, and then it sort of dissipated after that. But as I think of game plan, you know, as football players ourselves back in the day, you'd go in at halftime and say, here are the adjustments that need to be made. I liken that to talking to your financial advisor. If you don't have one, that may be something you want to consider, but to have those regular revisits with your advisor to sort of see, okay, how are we progressing along? What are maybe some of those adjustments that maybe have changed in your life? And then also as advisors, we're constantly looking, as Art said, doing our research to see what maybe adjustments we should be making on our side. So if you're in a situation where you don't necessarily have that game plan, that retirement plan mapped out, we'd encourage you to give us a call. Again, we're looking for a no cost, no obligation second opinion. We'd love to help you plan to retire well.
Hi everyone, my name is Brittany. I am our development coordinator with Habitat for Humanity Grand Traverse region. And I'm here to tell you a little bit about our New Waves community project. We have been working on New Waves since 2024, and we've had Centennial Wealth Advisory out multiple years in a row. They've become a community partner for our project, which means financially they support us, but as another way of support, we also get to get them out here on the job site, and you'll see a few of them behind me right now. We're working on landscaping, and we are also working on painting today. It is a super crucial point to have volunteerism and donations to help us with our projects to serve our middle class folks here in our Grand Traverse region. We really appreciate Centennial Wealth Advisory, their support and their continued partnership and the growth that we've seen with them. It's truly an honor to have them out here to help not only see financially where their donation is going, but really to be hands-in on our project. We are currently working on 5 houses. We'll have a total of 13 Habitat houses on this project, and one house is our 14th, which we use for the church that donated to the land for this project. We thank everyone for your support, and go check us out at habitatgtr.org.
You ever notice when you're at a family reunion or a barbecue or some sort of event that the individuals that tend to talk the loudest and with the most confidence have the least amount of experience or knowledge on a certain topic? This is something we call the Dunning-Kruger effect, and it's a psychological bias that's been around a very long time. And I think we're all guilty of it in some capacity. You know, myself, I think back to when I was in college and I had a professor tell me to, build my investment library and read as many books as I possibly could. And I remember reading my first investment book and thinking, I've got it figured out. I don't need to read anymore. I'm basically Warren Buffett, and quickly was humbled by the market. But what the Dunning-Kruger effect really says is individuals that have the least amount of knowledge on a topic tend to have the most confidence around that topic. And if you look at this graphic, our confidence tends to spike pretty early on. We take on the task of learning some new information. We get a little bit of information around that, and we think we know it all. And then quickly, as we continue to develop, we realize we really don't know anything, and that crashes down and then it slowly kind of builds back up. When we think about that in the investment world and the financial planning world, we've really seen this come up the last few years with meme stocks, crypto, the Meg 7 stocks, where as long as you were invested, you did well. And we've seen a lot of individuals coming in, especially with the Meg 7. We have videos on our YouTube channel, and we talk about it at our dinner events a lot, where we talk about how concentrated the market is, where if you just own NVIDIA, you've done phenomenal. If you've just owned a certain crypto, you may be up 50, 60% year to date. Well, that doesn't necessarily mean you're the Warren Buffett in the investment world. And we have to be careful when we see that spike that we also have some humility in our investment approach. Example I think of is in the crypto world. At one point this year, there was a cryptocurrency that was created called Fartcoin. I know we can laugh about it, but at one point that had a greater value than some GDP of certain countries. It was created as a joke. So we have to be careful if we're investing in these things and we're making our decisions based on our success of that. It may not apply to our general financial plan. An example I would use is kind of a general consensus we hear is we can take 4% of our investments out. Well, if we're relying on the information of our returns the past few years on a very concentrated portfolio in some of those meme stocks or the Meg 7 stocks, well, and you're planning to pull 4%, well, you're not necessarily always thinking about taxes on that. What if you sell those positions? That can affect your tax liability. That might affect your health insurance if you're retiring early. That might make you pay more in IRMA for Medicare premiums. So there's a lot of other pieces that come into play there. What about inflation? If you're pulling 4%, inflation's 5%. It's probably not going to be enough. So we see that peak of overconfidence is where the biggest mistakes tend to happen. And we see it a lot in finance because it's very easy to enter. I could pull my phone out of my pocket, create a new account right now, fund it today, and be investing by the next business day. We can get access to information very quickly, especially with different AI tools that can help us along the way, but we tend to find these short-term luck kind of reinforces bad habits in financial planning and tends to open us up to more risk long-term, gives us kind of a false sense of security. Example I would use is I had a client years ago that got really into day trading. Hundreds of thousands of trades throughout the course of the year. Okay, he was very successful on it, but he wasn't considering the tax liability. All of a sudden, market corrects, around tax time, he's got a $30,000 tax bill that's due. Now he's selling holdings at loss to go pay the taxes. So again, he thought he was a great investor and he did a phenomenal job, but he didn't overlay that with a tax plan and a financial plan that ended up leading to some pretty big mistakes for him long term. So kind of some different practical takeaways from this is confidence versus experience. You may be confident, but you may not have the experience with investments. So that's where we have pros like myself, certified financial professionals, access to different artificial intelligence tools to help you create a financial plan, stress test that plan. So if we're relying on information the last few years where you've done really well, what if you don't do so well? How does that financial plan look? How does we plan around health changes, long-term care changes, all of these different variables? It tends to be, back to my initial example, the loudest guy in the room at the yacht club bragging about his stocks that he's up, 50% year to date. He's probably at that peak of that confidence, but he may lack some of the competence long-term. So if you're in a situation where you've been managing your portfolio, you've probably been very successful the last few years, that's phenomenal, but it's a great time for us to take a step back. Let's review your allocation, make sure your investments actually align with your tax plan, your health plan, and your long-term financial plan. If you don't know where to get started with that, attend one of our dinner events, check out our YouTube channel, or please come in for a complimentary meeting where we can sit down with you and analyze your financial plan, investments, and align it with your long-term goals.
Choosing the right Medicare plan for you can be a daunting task. We can help you navigate the different parts of Medicare and identify which benefits are important for you to receive. Download our free white paper, Understanding Medicare. Know your options and costs, and be informed. Let us help you make educated decisions that are best for your situation. Simply go to cen-wealth.com, scroll down, and click the link, Understanding Medicare. Know your options and costs, to receive your free copy of this valuable and informative resource. Living life isn't always easy. It puts up challenges and obstacles you'll have to overcome. There are responsibilities. You put in effort to provide and take care of your family, to save and invest, to balance work and life. Planning is the first step to succeeding. Plan to retire well.
Retirement. These are your golden years of your life. And from what I've been told, they can be some of the most rewarding years of your life as well. But it isn't just about retirement, crossing that finish line, if you will. It's more about enjoying your life after retirement. And that's what I want to go over with you today, is living well and retiring well. So what does that mean? Well, you can kind of think of retirement as a three-legged stool, okay? With those three legs being time, purpose, and money. If one of those legs is uneven or missing altogether, that retirement stool that you're standing on could be very shaky and even fall over. So you want to make sure that you have all three legs of that stool appropriately positioned in your retirement. So let's start with the first one, time, okay? Time in retirement. Well, you've probably been working for 30, 40 years of your life, and you haven't had much time, right? Or it's been all scheduled. You've been punching that clock for 30 to 40 years, and then you get to retirement, and now what? Now what do, right? You have all kinds of time on your side. Well, what I have found is that for a lot of people, the first 6 months after retirement are awesome, okay? They don't have to punch the clock anymore. They can do what they want to do. They can go visit the grandkids, take vacations, and do all that kind of stuff. But you can only be on vacation for so long, right? And that's where a lot of people, they kind of start to get a little restless, okay? That they don't really know what to do with all this new free time that they have. And so what I would encourage you is to kind of schedule things out. Find things that you enjoy to do, but create a schedule. Actually, I have a lot of clients that, they've retired at first, and then they decided they wanted to go and find something to do on a part-time basis. Some clients, they go work at the golf course in the summer for the free golf. I've got other clients, actually I work out of the Gaylord office, and Treetops is a popular ski destination, and a lot of these retirees, they'll do ski patrol in the winter to get free ski lessons and stuff like that. So, there's opportunities out there to do things that maybe you have always wanted to do, but never got around to do it, and to utilize that time in retirement in different ways, okay? So don't just do nothing, create a schedule, create some different memories that you can throughout retirement with all that extra time. And then number two, purpose. Find a purpose in retirement. Before, when you're working, the purpose was, well, yeah, you're providing for your family and so forth, right? Well, now you don't have to go to work anymore. You don't have that purpose at work. So where do you get that purpose from, right? I have some clients where they mentor the younger generation, okay? I have one client who mentors a couple at church, and then another client who's mentoring a young gentleman that is in the same career that he just retired from. And one of the neat jobs, or parts of my job here at Centennial, is that I get to hear these clients' stories, and they light up so much when they're telling me about how they mentored this couple and so forth. So it is so rewarding to make sure that not only are you scheduling your time out, but you're also retiring with a purpose too. Okay, and then that third leg on that retirement stool stands for money. Okay. Now, what I have come to find is that people that don't have a financial plan in retirement tend to really, really worry about their money in retirement, whether it's going to be enough and so forth, especially when markets go up and down, okay? So, it's very important to make sure that you have a solid financial plan in place that not only meets your risk tolerance, but income needs and so forth, okay? Something that you can lean on in retirement. Because if you don't, that's going to be one of your main worries. And even if you do have a solid financial plan, don't think you're going to totally eliminate that money worry, but with that plan, it really does help give you peace of mind. So there's, 3 different legs of that retirement stool. Make sure that they're all balanced so that it's not a shaky stool in retirement. I would advise you, take a look at what your time is in retirement, what your purpose is in retirement, and make sure that you have that financial plan in place. If you have any questions on this, please don't hesitate to give us a call on the number on the screen. We'd be happy to schedule a free, no obligation consultation where we can help you plan to retire well.
We're excited to be out here with Veterans in Crisis out at Lock and Heath for the annual golf outing. We've been a proud sponsor of Veterans in Crisis for a number of years. It's great to see the support for our military, retired military in the northern Michigan area. They cover a wide area and they continue to need assistance, and so it's something that we've been proud to sponsor and would encourage you to reach out to Veterans in Crisis to partner with them as well, as they do a lot for our community, and we're so proud to be here and supporting our military.
Hey, we're so proud to be out here on a beautiful day just supporting our military veterans. Veterans in Crisis serves all of northern Michigan with this much needed help as they process, everything that they do and all the danger that these veterans put themselves in, all the stress that they handle. I think back to both of my grandpas served in World War II, and just to hear their stories and hear them unpack it as they got later in life. And then to transition into what we do each and every day as we work with some current veterans. Our clients will open up about what their experience is like, and every time you hear those stories, you're just so proud and so happy that people are so willing to sacrifice, because freedom is not free. And to be in this beautiful country, it was had to be fought for to have these kind of experiences. So we love here at Centennial Wealth to sponsor these kind of people. And so if you have an opportunity to look up Veterans in Crisis, see how you might be able to partner with them like we have in that sponsorship.
I'm Virgil Hughes, and today I'm going to talk about the most important areas of your financial plan. You've worked hard for decades. Now that you're retired or close to it, it's time to make sure your financial plan is working just as hard for you. Let's walk through the 5 most important areas of a financial plan in retirement and how each one helps protect your lifestyle and your peace of mind. First and foremost, we need to look at income planning. In retirement, your paycheck stops, but your expenses don't. So where will your money come from? Social Security, pensions, retirement accounts, and investments are all the most common areas. You need a reliable income strategy that covers your essential expenses like housing, food, and healthcare, while still leaving some room for travel, hobbies, and fun. A good plan balances guaranteed income with investment withdrawals, so your money lasts as long as you do. The second area for us to look at is healthcare and long-term care planning. Now, medical costs, they tend to rise as we age. Even with Medicare, there are gaps. Prescriptions, dental, vision, and long-term care. You'll want to consider even supplemental insurance or a Medicare Advantage plan or long-term care coverage. A single illness or extended care need can devastate an unprepared retirement budget. Planning ahead protects your savings, of course, and your family's future. Third, let's discuss investment strategy in retirement. Your money still needs to grow, especially with people now living into their 80s, 90s, or even 100s, but it's all about balance. You want a mix of safety and growth. Think, like income generating investments, bonds, dividend stocks, with lower volatility than riskier assets. And just as is important, we need to have a smart withdrawal plan for you in your retirement. Pulling too much too soon can drain your accounts. The 4% rule is a common guide. You may have actually heard about that, but you need to talk to a financial advisor to really figure out what's best for you. The fourth topic we will address is estate and legacy planning. This is more than just a will. It's about making sure your assets go to the right people at the right time with as little stress and as few taxes as possible. You may want to set up a will, a living trust, power of attorney, healthcare directives, and beneficiary reviews are all important. If leaving a legacy to family or charity is important to you, make sure your plan reflects those wishes. The fifth and final topic we will address is tax planning for retirement. Retirement doesn't mean a tax-free life. In fact, things can get more complex. Withdrawals from 401ks, traditional IRAs, they are taxable. Social Security may be taxed too. I know that's hard to believe sometimes. You worked your whole life, paid into it, and then you start receiving Social Security and you find out, wait a second, I might have to pay some taxes on this, but it is true that some Social Security could be taxed. And we can help you work through that and look through that because we often get questions on that. Is my Social Security gonna be taxed? How much can I make and not have to pay tax on Social Security? So that's one that surprises some people. And then required minimum distributions kick in at a certain age. And that's based on your date of birth, but it typically is early mid-70s. And what required minimum distributions are, if you're not familiar with the term, it's RMDs is the acronym, of course. You are required to start taking money out of a traditional 401k or traditional IRA. It's money you've never paid taxes on, and the government requires you to start taking that out in your 70s. And again, that's based on your date of birth. So a good tax strategy can help you keep more of your money each year, and it helps you stretch your nest egg further. So let's recap the 5 key areas of a retirement financial plan. They're income planning, healthcare and long-term care planning, investment and a withdrawal strategy, estate and legacy planning, and then of course having a good tax strategy. Retirement isn't just about slowing down, it's about living your life on your terms. You want to have a clear financial plan, and with that you can reduce stress, make confident decisions, and focus on what matters most: your health, your loved ones, and your freedom. You may have watched this show for years, or this may be your first time watching us, but we are here to help. We would love the opportunity to meet with you and help you walk through the key areas of your retirement financial plan. So please follow the instructions on the screen to schedule a no obligation meeting at one of our 5 offices in Northern Michigan so that we can help you plan to retire well.